How much they give you? No, I'm saying. That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Hurt me. I was going to the screen a couple months ago. I finally came back up. It's all good though. I took a big hit, but I'm good though. I'm about to say my truck.
All right. Give me a 1 if y'all can hear me. Give me a 1, y'all can hear me. All right.
Yeah, that's what I had to do. Right?
What you put?
Right.
That's the same. That's the same.
That's coming for your.
All right, good.
Yeah. I have to run forward.
To me, y'all can see the screen. Yeah, I take one store each. To me, y'all can see the screen. All right. All right. Yep, that's it. Okay. All right.
¿Qué le digo? Señorita presidenta. Sí. Pues dije que nosotros la queremos, ya, ahora, que está bien, que le voy a poner. Que se vayan a pasar. No, man, yo le dije, man, no, nada, ya acabamos, no, yo le dije, perfecto, no, yeah, that's her.
Sí, bueno. Entonces,
Okay, before I can even teach you about those bonds, you got to know about this bond. All right, which you already have it done, at least for your wife. But the authentication process serves a purpose. The authentication process serves the purpose once you do what is called a title or BC title of ownership. All right. Then after you do the authenticating of the birth certificate, which is at the state and at the federal level, you also put into the register of deeds, which is the county recorder's office, a township. You do a BC title of ownership. BC means birth certificate, title of ownership. All right, and then you do what is called an executor, or what's known as executress letter. An executor letter or executress letter for males, for females. So authenticating the birth certificate is just one part. You got to do the affidavit, which is the BC birth certificate title of ownership. And then you have to do the executor or executrix letter also. So it's a 3-step process. All right. Now, the reason why it's a 3-step process is because the birth certificate, everything is predicated on the birth certificate. All right. Right now, you have no part in the birth certificate. They have everything over you. They're able to sell your birth certificate once you become 18 on the New York Stock Exchange, and they sell it for hundreds of millions of dollars. So your birth certificate might be worth $300 million in China to a corporation. You don't have the original birth certificate. You have a copy of the birth certificate. The original birth certificate, which everything is predicated upon, making you collateral for the debt of the so-called United States corporation, is sold to the highest bidder, and it might be in China. Because I'm saying China because China has the most debts collection, which is you and I, if you have not done this process. So that's the point. So you have to authenticate the birth certificate, for it is a bond. The birth certificate itself is a bond. Okay? So, did you know that the birth certificate, that when you were born, your parents register you with the government as a corporation? Actually, the government itself is a corporation. By receiving and signing a birth certificate, in a few years, your corporation will receive a tax identification number called your Social Security card. This is so that you can be used as collateral for the government to acquire debt. That's right. You and your labor, time, energy is what backs up the national debt. You are stock. So hence you're sold on the New York Stock Exchange to the highest bidder. Slavery didn't end. It went to paper. Okay? Slavery is still in effect. Slavery is still in effect. This is why the government feels that they can do whatever they want to you, and you don't have no control. But once you follow these steps, you are free willy. Okay? So the value of the birth certificate is unlimited, actually. Howbeit, is a good to put a value on it, such as $100 billion in silver coinage, since the Treasury is the only place in which it actually coins money, real money, all right, which is supposed to be backed by silver and gold, all right, platinum, palladium, copper, that's real. Those are minerals. How much are you worth? Well, when your mother, the informant, gives the title birth certificate to the state, the baby then becomes the property and the slave of the state. These titles, birth certificates, are turned into corporations at Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico Department of State Corporations, P.O. Box 3271, San Juan, Puerto Rico, 00904-3271. Puerto Rico is a territory of the District of Columbia. So, if you look on the birth certificate, you will see that your mother was the informant. That means that she squealed on your ass. She squealed on you, all right, and made you a ward to the state. That was done through the birth certificate. So everything is predicated on the birth certificate. So the first thing, in order to alleviate you from the debt of the corporation as a corporation, is to authenticate the birth certificate. Because some say that, well, you don't get nothing with the birth certificate. Oh, yes, you do. You are part and parcel to that birth certificate. Because if you go to court and you stand there and say that you understand the charges being brought up against you, what's going to happen? Bingo, you're going to jail. Right. Because you're standing under their jurisdiction. That's what that means. They're saying that you violated a statute. Do you know that a statute correlates to a bond in which they're claiming that you have violated? And that bond is based on your birth certificate. Because that's the main bond. The main bond is your birth certificate. All other bonds after that is predicated upon your birth certificate. Okay? The birth certificate is the main bond. If you don't believe me, look at the birth certificate that you get from the Secretary of State, and you will see red numbers at the bottom. That's called your bond number. All right? That's your bond number on the birth certificate. Look at it. It's at the bottom. Matter of fact, it might even say, all right? Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Yep, the state file number. Yep. Certificate number, there it is. All right? And on some birth certificate, it even says that it is, quote unquote, bank note company. You might see the words bank note company on the bonds. It would say West Bank Note Company, East Bank Note Company, or some type of bank note company will be on your bond, i.e. your birth certificate. And mostly it's in the bottom left-hand corner. All right. Now, what that means is that they're telling you that this is a bond. It comes from a bank. The numbers are red on it. That's a bond. This is why you authenticate the birth certificate, and you have a birth certificate title of ownership, and you have your executor or executrix letter, and you go to court and say, I sit in my estate. I sit in my estate seat. I am now the official of my estate seat. That's part of the vast estate in which that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was talking about, which most Moors don't even know. Yeah. How you gonna get back to your vast estate if you haven't done what you needed to do with that damn birth certificate, which that they put fraud on you when you was a baby? You was unconscious. You was not cognitive of what was going on. The first day, the second day out of your mother's womb. But shoot, they slapped that birth certificate up on you. Had no problem doing that. Not one problem did they have doing that. Right. Well, they denationalized you right on the birth certificate. The first day, second day, third day, you out of the womb of your mother. And they say that your mother was black, your daddy was black, you black. Your parents, they was Negroes. Somebody, your great grandma might even been colored. So you got 3 generations of the same family, but 3 different classifications. Might be Negro, might be colored, might be black. Your children come after you, might be African American. These are all artificial labels, in which that ties you right back to their corporate foolishness and fraud. That's what this does. All right. So if you go to the IRC, which is the Internal Revenue Codes, it said that you're worth $650,000 at birth. So you're worth almost $1 million at birth. And then as you grow in age, and that bond becomes solidified at 18, bond in age does what? What is that? All right. So that's what happens. The original birth certificate or naturalization record, which you never was fully naturalized, because you're a natural person, so you can't be naturalized. That's number one. But for every United States citizen that is on file with the official records in Washington, D.C., which you can get a copy of, and the property and assets of every living United States citizen is pledged as collateral for the national debt. Within 2 weeks or 3 days, each certificate of live birth is to be filed in Washington, D.C. Evidence revealed that there is even a federal children department established by the Shepard-Townsend Act of 1922 under the Department of Commerce. Every citizen is given a number, the red number on the birth certificate, which is the bond number. And each live birth is valued for 650,000 Federal Reserve dollars in collateral for the Fed. So that means that the corporation, United States, utilizes the $650,000, which is from when you were born, for inflation status. In other words, they can get money from the Federal Reserve Bank anytime they want to, and the Federal Reserve Bank prints up the money because every day a child is born. And every day a child is born is worth $650,000. Yeah, you stock. We stock. We stocks. Yeah. And the crazy part is that the number on the back of your Social Security card is called your prepaid levy bond number. It's called also the IMF, the International Monetary Fund number. That's the number on the back of your Social Security card. All right. First, there's a letter, and then 8 numbers, coming to the number of 9. Each letter correlates to a Federal Reserve Bank. There's 13 Federal Reserve banks. The main one is in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The other 12 are throughout the United States. So if you check your money, it verifies the fact that you belong to one of those Federal Reserve banks. Pull out $1. Somebody pull out $1 or any amount of money and tell me the number or the letter, that is on the money. It's circled. E. That's Richmond, Virginia, right up the street. An hour and 15 minutes up the street. It's called the Federal Reserve of Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, that's the letter. What letter is it? D? Yeah. All right. So we got E and D. Well, we'll go through. Huh? D4? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's just D. Richmond, Virginia? Yeah, E. Yeah, mine used to be Richmond, Virginia until I changed my name, my indigenous appellation. Then it moved to Atlanta, Georgia, F. So it went from Richmond, Virginia to the Federal Reserve Bank in Atlanta, Georgia. So the first district, A, is the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. Second district, B, is the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Third district, C, is the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. Fourth district, D, which we just talked about, is the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, Ohio. The fifth district, E, is the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, Virginia. Sixth district is the F, Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, Georgia. Seventh is G, which is the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. 8 is the District H, which is the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. 9 district is I, which is the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. Okay, Minnesota. 10 district is J, which is Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Missouri. 11 district is K, which is Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, Texas. 12 district is L, which is the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, California. So these are the Federal Reserve banks located throughout the so-called United States corporation. So these banks, just like, remember, what controls the water, the flow of water? It's the banks. You know that, right? The what? Water, when it flows. If it's the ocean, or better yet, if it's the river flow is controlled by
Banks.
the banks. They'll tell you that. Yeah.
You get it right?
No, he don't get it, guy.
You know, when you go to the house, you always see like a bank on these ponds.
That's what they call it.
Be flowing slow.
The water. controls the
Like
flow
they'll put a concrete wall.
of, right, the water is controlled by,
Every pond has a bank.
right,
Where the water flows slowly and just keep flowing.
right,
It's a bank.
yeah.
It's the same thing.
When you came out of your mother's womb, her water broke.
It's flowing.
Yeah, when you came out your mother's womb, her water broke. That means the reason why they can do the birth certificate, because the birth certificate represents the bank. I just told you, Midwest Banknote Company is on the lower left-hand side of the birth certificate. So the birth certificate is a bond, but it's from the bank. So the bank controls the flow of you coming to shore from your mother's womb when the water broke. So you came from out the waters into so-called dry land. But because you still breathe water, which is the mist of the air, you're still in water. So therefore, that's where they get the maritime and admiralty law from, in which they have us perpetrated under. See, this is the devil right here, yo. I'm just simply breaking it down for you. Okay, straight devil shit. So the Treasury is also a bank. So when you do your documents, your UCC, your denial of corporate status, your negative avertment, your bond for discharge, your private bond set off, your negotiable instrument, which is charged back, and you do all of these things. You do your copyright, trademark, trade name, your security agreement, private agreement, whole harmless indemnity clause with collateral listing, and you do all of these documents and you send it to the Treasury. The Treasury is a bank, and you ask the Treasurer, you demand that you're able to discharge debts, maybe for $100 trillion. But that's going to be for you to discharge any debts in 30 days. Yeah, because the Treasury is a bank. So that's the reason why you send these documents to the Treasury. You send one to San Juan, Puerto Rico, putting them on notice, CCing it from Washington, D.C., all right, from 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue is the Department of Treasury, which sits down right from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is the White House. Okay. You don't even want to listen to me, guy.
Right. You want the money. So how can you get charged? Like,
That's why they call it charges in court, right?
Right. That's why they call it charges, because the court is controlling you now as the bank.
Yeah.
They saying that they the bank.
Right.
So you don't have to give you fees.
Yeah.
The court is a bank.
So it's basically a civil suit, right?
And the judge, let me get to that in a second.
Okay.
So look,
Every charge in which that is brought up against you is civil, even if it's criminal.
Right.
And every time that you violate a statute, that's a bond in which that you violated. Therefore, you come under their charges, under their jurisdiction.
Right.
That's what's going on.
but that's what he was saying. Yeah. You verbally make a contract when you say you understand.
Yeah.
But when you say I don't understand, or I don't understand, then
Right.
it's like somebody sending you a light bill on somebody else's title. Are you gonna pay for it? You gonna pay my light bill if they get it to your house?
Right.
No, right?
There is no law stating that you got to accept any charges in any courtroom. They want you to waive your constitutional rights.
Right.
Matter of fact, they'll tell you,
That's why
do you understand that you waiving your constitutional rights?
you said it's no
And you just stand there, yeah.
Basically, you're making a contract with them.
Right.
without even knowing.
Right.
That's why
Right. That's the contract. Because they know that the Constitution is the highest law of the land. Next are treaties,
Right.
which is the supreme law of the land.
Right. You said there's no law saying what? Stating what?
There's no law saying that you have to admit
Contract.
to any charges. Right. Because that's a contract.
Yeah, they've got
That's a contract.
Right. Right.
So the Treasury is also a bank.
So I
Title 31, United States Code, Section 321, it spells out that the Secretary of the Treasury is the CFO of the Treasury Bank. Who is the current Secretary of Treasury? That's Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen is the current Secretary of Treasury. She'll be out of there soon. All right. In a couple of weeks, she gone. All right. There'll be a new Secretary of Treasury. So you got to know who the Secretary of Treasury is. So when you send your documents and your affidavits and everything off, you got the name on there. All right. You got what is called your Form 56. The Form 56 is what's called fiduciary relationship. And you put their name on that form. All right, UCC 3-419. Which means that you are accepting their information as Secretary of Treasury so that you can sign off when necessary 30 days from when the documents or affidavits get to them, to that office, to the Secretary of Treasury, to Janet Yellen. 30 days from that, you are able to discharge debt.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm going to use a part of the funds that you have stolen from me my whole life, and this $100 trillion bond is the amount that I would deposit into my account, into the Secretary of Treasury Bank. Into the Treasury Bank. Because remember, the Treasury is also a bank. So you add in your bond into the bank, which you have the right to, based on the House Joint Resolution, in which that was June 5th, 1933, which was signed by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in which that he took gold off as the standard, which backed the money. Money is no longer being backed by silver or gold. Silver was stopped under President Nixon in 1972-73. So that means money has not been backed by anything of substance, all right, for 90 years to 40 years. All right. Sure, actually almost damn near 50 years now. So 90 years to almost 50 years. 50 years.
So it stopped backing the dollar, basically.
Yeah,
What?
money is fiat, which means I owe you. It's an IOU note.
Yep.
It's a fiat note. It's a debt note.
That's why it's called dollar. They ain't call it money. People call it money, but it's not money.
Right. It's not money. It's not currency.
Like food stamps.
Because there's nothing backing it. Right. It's right. Shit, it's no different than food stamps. It's monopoly money. Shit.
Yeah.
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 Right. Boardwalk. Right. And they got those boardwalk niggas. We the boardwalk niggas. Okay. So you have to also, when you do your documents, affidavits, to be signed and sent off to the Secretary of Treasury, you have to accept your documents, in particular the birth certificate, for value. That's part of the process. So you accept the birth certificate, which is a bond, for value. How do you accept it for value? Well, this is what it says: non-negotiable, accepted for value, approved for payment. Accept for value this presentment in all related endorsements, front and back, in accordance with Uniform Commercial Code, UCC 3-419, as I just told you, and the House Joint Resolution 192 of June 5th, 1933, which I just told you. Please release all proceeds, products, accounts, and fixtures in the order of the court to me immediately. Exempt from levy, which means from suits, from lawsuits. All right, you are exempt as a sovereign. Deposit the United States Treasury and charge the same to my indigenous appellation. All right, or you can also use your birth name and then the social security number. All right, I don't suggest using the birth name. I suggest using your indigenous appellation. And then, of course, by your indigenous appellation agent, all right, date and then employer's identification number, which of course is your social security card number without the dashes.
When we filling this paper out. Talking about this paper.
No, that's the UCC 1 financial statement.
Okay.
This is accepted for value or return it for value. Since there is no money to pay anything, the contracts are already in place. We are simply accepting the credits that have established and authorized them to set off the debt with the said credits. Written in proper bank speak, it is possible to set off unsecured debt items to the IRS and authorize the Secretary of Treasury to issue money orders to pay off those debts using your public side strawman social security number. On the back side of the social security number, there is an alphanumeric account number, which I just told you about, in your strawman name. That is your private account that you can be drawn from. By doing so, you can help reduce the national debt. All right? So the birth certificate is a negotiable instrument. So it's not just a bond, it's also a negotiable instrument. So that means when you send off your documents, which we just talked about, accepted for value, you put the accepted for value stamp front and back on the birth certificate. Okay? You would do it front and back on the birth certificate. So yes, you have authenticated the birth certificate, all right? Birth certificate title of ownership and your executive order or your executive letter, and now you have become the head of your executor seat, because that's what's been abandoned. So banks know this. Once again, the banks. Remember, who controls the flow of currency, the flow of water? The banks. All right? So the bank, what happened is that you go to the bank, you open up an account. Even if you close that account, the backside of that account is still open and activated, and they're still flowing money through there. Because you are the national debt. So a birth certificate is a negotiable instrument, a registered stock or security, a stock certificate evident and representing the preferred stock of the corporation, and against you or the surety. This is why you do a SF-28 form, which is an affidavit of individual surety, along with your documentation. Okay? So let's look at the documents in which that is needed. All right. So UCC 1 financing statement. UCC 1 financing statement. UCC addendum. That's ADDENDUM, addendum. Okay? Copyright, trademark, trade name. All right? Copyright, trademark, trade name. Right? Security agreement. Private agreement. Hold harmless indemnity clause. Or agreement as it's called. All right? Negative avertment. All right. Property listed. Property listed. Property listed. All right. Everybody got that? We got more. Bond for discharge. Affidavit bond for discharge. Private bond set off. Chargeback. Okay. Bill of exchange. All right. These are all the instruments in which that you need to have when you send it off to the Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, or whoever comes in next, in order to activate your UCC trust account. In other words, to be able to discharge 30 days later any debts in which that you have, which is based on the House Joint Resolution 192. All right.
So those are steps you're taking me through, Bob.
Yep. These are the steps.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's tedious. That's why I said, hold on, one step at a time.
Right.
You can get it in your mind, because it ain't just one document.
Right.
So once you do all of this, then you can start doing, if you have any prison charges, state level, you have bonds. At the state level, you have the SF 24, SF 25, SF 25A.
You can go back and get that.
These are state bonds. All right? State bonds. State bonds. All right? This is the bid bond. SF 24 is the bid bond. The bid bond. The performance bond, 25. And the payment bond, 25A.
You said this whole process is like 30 days, 60 days.
Based on you. Whenever you can get it filled out. So these are state bonds. Federal bonds is SF 273, SF 274, SF 275. Once again, these are federal. All right, state, federal. So you got to know if the person is in state prison or federal prison. These are the bonds in which that you have to utilize. Once you have done this, first is nationality. So if they're in prison, they have to have their nationality done. They can't remain property of the state. Wards to the state. That's why you have a warden, because they are wards to the state. And a warden is somebody who controls the ship.
Right.
He's called the straw boss because they are the straw men.
That's what I might use to use that word.
Straw balls.
Hey, straw balls.
Straw boss. Because they're straw bosses. Because you are the straw men. You're the straw person. Artificial person. And he's the head of the artificial persons. You see that shit? You see? Everything I'm telling you makes sense.
I hear the white boys are saying,
Yeah.
straw balls.
Yeah, call the straw balls. They don't even know what the hell they saying. Because if they knew this information, their ass wouldn't be up in there.
What the hell they get their word from? I give you that.
That's the word in which that they call the warden. And the warden is also a name in which that is used, guess where? In the Navy.
Yeah.
In the military. In the Navy. In the Navy. Because the Navy is what? Naval, which is your navel, which symbolizes water. So, 273 is the bid bond. 274 is the performance bond. And 275 is the payment bond. So once again, you got to know if your charges are state or federal. And these are the bonds that you will use to get yourself out of the predicament. This is monopoly at its best. Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's why they do that. These people always drop this one.
He's got it.
Yeah.
They never had that.
Yeah.
They just trying to make it take from. They just want to sign the paper.
Yeah. But you don't sign that,
You sign whatever.
yeah.
So some other forms in which that you would need to know, all right, is cancellation of debt. What is known as a 1099A, 1099B, and the most important one, which is a 1099, which is C, cancellation of debt. 1099C will go along with those forms that I just told you about. To cancel the debt of the person. Remember, you are collateral for the debt, for the national debt. So how would you cancel that debt? Do a 1099C, which is cancellation of debt form. God almighty knows, simple shit.
And they got the C already beside it.
Look how simple that is. It got the C right beside it. 1099, because it's cancellation of debt. And it says right on the goddamn form. You see? So you add that with what we just talked about, state bonds, federal bonds. Once you make that determination, you fill those bonds out. Use the 1099C for the cancellation of the debt. 1099A is called an abandonment or acquisition form. Abandonment. The bank used this on your ass annually because they said that you abandon your executress seat. So because you abandon that seat, they can make money off of you. Hence the reason why even if you close your bank account, it is still operating on the backside. And they're still making money or funneling money through that former account. Okay? This is what they do. This is what they do. B is a balance form. So this transfers credit into FRNs. So once again, 1099A, which is a abandoned acquisition form, is actually also a credit form. So you transform credit into FRNs. You make it money. Well, let's not say money. Fiat notes. 1099 balance form, transform it into FRNs, Federal Reserve notes. C is a cancellation of debt. You need to know these names. You see that? This is important shit right here. All right. So then you start putting all this shit together. There's a lot, as you can see. A nigga like me been doing this shit for damn 25 years. So it's easy to remember.
Man, it is, man. It's just a short period of time for some people, you know what I mean?
Yeah. For some.
For real.
Yeah, that's why I take you through a crash course.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Give you all the information in class, because you know you're gonna have to come back and ask me some questions, because you ain't gonna get all this shit in no one class.
Kamani had it when he got out from the road. He just gave up on it. He should have kept going.
I got misled, and I just gave up, man.
As soon as that brought it to me, I kept going. Well, about 6 months.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You could have been long further if you just stuck with it.
Yeah.
Because you was talking about it, remember?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, you talking about all this back in the days, bro?
Years ago.
You was trying to get it, huh?
10 years ago.
You was telling me about it.
I just fell back from it, you know?
Right.
I told you I was,
Well, you ain't had no teacher. You ain't had nobody to put this shit in order. Yeah. It's all right. You here now. We're going to get this shit.
that's right.
You told me about it, and I went
But I
off
went
with it.
there.
Look, he gave me the information, I went off with it.
Right, you went on with it.
Yeah, I went off
Right,
with
Right.
it.
And then you got a girl who damn knew the information too.
Yeah.
And she even put you on. Is that there you go.
We got deep. I
Exactly.
kept telling him though.
Right.
Hey, man, this is the name, but he was still like,
Yeah.
you the one talking about it.
He ain't know how real it
I
was.
didn't know.
Yeah, he ain't know how real it was. You know what I'm saying? Niggas talking. You know what I'm saying? But as they say, bullshit walks. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge talks now. No, they say money talks, but it's a pedigree chattel document. That's what the birth certificate is. Chattel papers establishing the existence of our straw man, a distinct artificial person with a fictitious name. It is a document of title to a straw man. It is a warehouse receipt for your body, delivery receipt, industrial bond between you, the flesh and blood man and woman, and the industrial society and corporate United States government artificial person. That's what that is. Birth certificates are also a form of security called warehouse receipts. The item included on a warehouse receipt as described in A section 7-202 of the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, the law which governs commercial paper and transaction which parallels a birth certificate or birth certificates now appear to at least qualify as warehouse receipts under the Uniform Commercial Code. Black's Law Dictionary 7th edition defines warehouse receipts. A warehouse receipt, which is considered a document of title, may be a negotiable instrument. So that means that you can actually get another copy of your birth certificate from the Secretary of State and utilize that, accept it for value, front and back on it, and utilize that as part of the 1099-C for the cancellation of debt, along with those forms that we just talked about, whether it's state bond or if it's federal bonds. And that's how you get someone out of prison. State level, federal level. Okay? It says, may be a negotiable instrument and is often used for financing with inventory as security. All right, so I'm going to end class right there. Any questions or anything that we talked about? because I know it's a lot that I just went over. So it's a lot. It's all right. It's a lot. I know. Oh, well, good. You got to record it, no doubt. No, all right. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Record that shit. Because it's a lot.
I got one question.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Hit me up.
To start your to get the ownership of your birth certificate, how would you do that?
Right here. Number one, nationality. Because nationality is the call of the day. There's nothing more important than your nationality. So nationality is number one. Once you do your nationality, then you go to your UCC. One, financing statement. And your UCC addendum. Right?
And for our nationality, we put Aboriginal.
Right. You have to be Aboriginal, Indigenous. And you make yourself Aboriginal, Indigenous by declaring a name in which that give you sovereignty over this land. Give you connection to this land. Because that's the only way that you can do this.
Right.
All right? You can't do it the so-called title sovereign citizens way, the white boys way. Because only thing they do is take their name. Their name is Jonathan Cunningham, and they put it in all caps as the debtor, and then in upper lowercase they put Jonathan Cunningham. That's the same damn name. They didn't show no distinction. And guess what? That's fraud. When you do a UCC proper, that's improper. You can't do a UCC like that. You got to show a distinction between the debtor and the secured party creditor, or what is known as the grantor and the grantee. If you can't show a distinction, then actually they can throw that shit away, throw that shit in the garbage.
So look, in the courtroom,
So they got to respond to it, right?
when you say you're a sovereign, but they say sovereign citizen, that's some shit they made up, right?
Yeah, because how can you be a sovereign citizen when the word sovereign means free and the word citizen means slave?
Right.
There's no such thing as a sovereign citizen. It's an oxymoron.
No, because the judge is saying
And only
sovereign citizen. I was like, no, sovereign
and only
citizen.
morons will utilize that terminology.
Yeah, because when the judge told me that,
I'm an indigenous sovereign.
when the judge told me that sovereign citizen, I said, oh, so you're a sovereign? I never said that. They said
Once
sovereign
again,
citizen.
Your Honor, excuse me, but let's make that correct for the record. I'm an indigenous sovereign, meaning I'm not under your jurisdiction. I'm not under statute, codes, rules, regulations, ordinances, or policies. If those statute, codes, rules, regulations, and policies violates my constitutional rights, then I am above those so-called laws, legalese in which that you just claimed.
Dang, that's what you said in court.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, that's a pretty other name.
Huh?
That's what I said it before.
Oh, you said that?
Yeah, he was like,
All right, there we go.
They didn't want to challenge me though.
Of course not. They can't challenge you.
They continue the case.
They're gonna continue, but they can't challenge you.
They couldn't even respond to him.
No, what they gonna respond to?
That's exactly what you said. They couldn't even respond.
That's why I got tired of going back and forth.
Man, bunk all of that. Go on and let them keep calling you back, because eventually you won't beat it, just like I always did. You know what I'm saying?
They already showed you that, because
Right.
they went from this to, oh, we just gonna give you probation, takes a little 6 months probation.
Right.
What you mean? You just told me we were gonna give you 3, now you give me probation.
Right.
It don't make sense.
Right. And you keep going, they're gonna say, go on to leave, Mr. Such and such.
Stop bringing that shit over.
Right.
They can't move forward without a signature, right?
Right. And they can't move forward without your consent.
Right.
So you just stand there, I do not consent to these proceedings, Your Honor.
Yeah, under threat of
I don't,
arrest.
right, under threat of arrest or coercion. Thank you. I do not consent to these proceedings, Your Honor. I'm only here under threat of arrest or coercion.
Yeah. Well,
Every question that they ask you, that's your response back. Every single damn question. Where do you live at? Your Honor, I'm only here under threat of arrest or coercion.
There's no time it is by force.
Right. You don't have to answer anything that they saying. You can always answer back with that response. They can't force you to give a response that is favorable for them to have jurisdiction over you.
Right.
Because actually, that's a violation of the Fifth Amendment. You don't have the right to incriminate yourself.
To favor them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had let me finish answering your question, guy.
All right.
Ask that question again.
I asked, how do you like start the process of getting the ownership of your birth certificate?
Right. So you do a BC birth certificate, title of ownership, which is the affidavit. Birth certificate, title of ownership. All right. That correlates to you authenticating authentication of the birth certificate, which is at the state and federal level. And then you do an executor letter. And that is how you do that. First, you want to do a birth certificate title of ownership affidavit. Okay? That's the first step. Birth certificate title of ownership. And there's some examples of that, might be even online. If you had a Scribe account, SCRIBD, a Scribed account, you would have examples of a birth certificate title of ownership on there, which you can actually just copy. Okay. And once you do that, you authenticate the birth certificate. But first, you have to put the birth certificate title of ownership on the public record at the Register of Deeds, or this, what is known as the County Recorder's Office. Okay. Once you have that, then you can authenticate the birth certificate.
So I'm gonna fill these papers out.
Right. So you do the authenticating the birth certificate, and you send it to the state level, which is the Secretary of State, to the Authentication Department of the Secretary of State, and they will stamp and put the letter. Matter of fact, your dad has a copy of the mother. Have you shown that to them? Authenticating the birth certificate?
Then we got to do it on the federal level.
Right. Then you move it up to the Secretary of State, the United States Secretary of State. So you do North Carolina Secretary of State, or whatever state in which that you was conceived in, and then you do the United States Secretary of State. Okay.
You gotta walk through this.
No, I just told you what to do.
Yeah, you gotta walk through it.
Okay, but I just told you what to do, though.
I know, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
But step by step.
you would call the Secretary of State, their authentication office, and tell them that you have your documents in which that you want authenticated.
Right.
You can actually what do they call that shit? When you
Email.
scan it.
Facts.
Yeah, thank you. You can actually fax it to them. You can actually fax it to them and tell them that you need for this to be authenticated. And they will authenticate it and send you a copy back within probably 7 to 10 days. And then once you get that back, then you send it to the United States Secretary of State. And he or she, they'll do the same thing and authenticate it. So you'll have both levels authenticated. And then you have your executor letter and you have your birth certificate title of ownership, which you already put on the Register of Deeds, which is the County Recorder's Office. Okay? You got it? Okay. So that's how you do that. All right, peace, y'all. Is the birth certificate a death certificate? Essentially, because it makes you civilist more too, because your name is in all caps. I'm healing harmonics. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, essentially, the birth certificate is a death certificate because it makes you civilist mortuus, which means, according to Black's Law Dictionary, means that you're dead in the eyes of the law. Yep, riverbanks and currency, exactly. Ramasu, no doubt, God. Exactly, Goddess. Yay, Madre, no doubt. Bondage, exactly. That's how they got us. That's how they got us. But they didn't know that nigga would figure this shit out here. They didn't know a nigga would come and figure this shit out. They didn't know. It says, okay, got a question. God, what do you do once you're assigned a fiduciary? Remember I talked about UCC 3-419. You would use an affidavit of fiduciary relationship and a Form 56 to make them responsible as fiduciary. If they don't hold up their order of management, then you send copies with a cover letter to the criminal division of the IRS and have their ass audited.
So look, they don't discharge all the debt, like
That's what they're supposed to do.
child support, everything.
That's what they're supposed to do.
They say everybody says that.
That's what they're supposed to do. Any debt, that's what they're supposed to do. Okay. And what's the proper way to respond to the breach? You can do a UCC one financing statement on them at the local level, and you can actually lien them as the last result. And send a copy of that lien to the comptroller. All right. And they won't be working any longer in that capacity. Of course, that's the extreme, but I mean, sometimes you might have to go to the extreme because they don't want to fulfill their duties.
Oh, what?
Like calling stuff. We had to call on ours
Yeah.
a lot of times
Yep.
to put pressure on them so they can send the back thing back.
Yeah.
What?
Like call for the authentication thing. You gotta call them. You gotta be worse.
Don't tell me that, man.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You gotta stay on it.
Oh my God.
But it's not bad.
It's all right.
Call them.
I mean,
No,
shoot.
it's not bad.
I mean, that's
put pressure on them. Let's see, like, you
right.
need
That's
to company.
what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't want to do this, man. They don't want to do this straight
I'll
out.
put pressure on.
Huh?
I'll call them and put pressure on. I like doing stuff like that. I don't care. They tell me.
Yeah, no problem, brother Amir.
I'll be like, why?
So how do I become a Moorish national? Brother Zaire, you can actually go to Dr. Alim El Bey, DrAlimElbey.com, and go to United Washington reclamation process page. United Washington reclamation process page. All right. We are United Washington. Ehate Washington Ish. And we out, y'all. Peace. All right.